to spot.
As I know all too well, after my own email was hacked and fake emails purporting to be me were sent out to all my contacts last year, hilariously saying I'd lost my voice, as if. Well, in a moment, we'll be hearing the very latest on how the fraudsters are trying to reel us in with fake messages. But first, here's a report we made on this issue back in 2016, which shows just how costly it can be when a fake email lands in your inbox.
Back in July 2015, Sarah Fisher was adding a major extension to her North London home and had agreed to pay the builder in instalments every 4 to 6 weeks, something she was juggling with her busy life as a record label manager.
I have a busy job. I manage lots of budgets, money, hundreds of emails a day. You know, I have to stay on top of things.
Over the first few months, everything seemed to be going to plan. But then, when the invoice for October arrived, totalling nearly £27,500, Sarah didn't get round to paying it for a few days. And when she did, she noticed another email from the firm's accountant advising her that the company's bank details had changed and asking her to make this latest payment into a new account.
Nothing seemed out of the ordinary about the email at all. The email signatures were exactly correct and in the right place. The conversational tone is very familiar to us. It read and felt exactly like an email we were used to seeing from her.
Sarah transferred £25,000, the most her bank would allow in one day. But a few days later, before she'd had a chance to pay the rest, she was surprised to see that the builder's accountant had emailed again, chasing the full £27,500.
My head was just saying, no, 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 this isn't right, it can't be right.
Sarah immediately rang to explain that the outstanding amount would be transferred later that day to the company's new account. But when the accountant told her there was no new account, the penny dropped. She'd been scammed into paying the money to somebody else.
My mind was going out of control. I thought, I've got to sort of solve this so I can work it out and just get my money back and get on with my life. I just needed to fix it.
Sarah called her bank and the bank the money had been paid into, and finally the police. And a tiny but crucial difference was spotted. One of the email addresses was missing an S. Somehow fraudsters had hacked into the emails of either Sarah or the building company and set up a very similar email address so that Sarah didn't notice anything was amiss when she received the fatal message with those new bank details.
To say I felt devastated doesn't really cover it because I'd been party to transferring this cash. I hadn't checked. I hadn't called the building company to make sure they had changed their bank account details.
Sarah was sadly unable to get any of her money back. And in the years since her experience, so-called imposter emails have upped their game further to convince us of their veracity. Whilst Sarah's fake email had a telltale email address that wasn't quite the same, now the scammers can cover that trail too, with all the letters and numbers of a genuine email address looking exactly the same as the real deal. As David McClelland was keen to show me, along with Matt Cooke from cybersecurity software company Proofpoint.
This email here arrived with me a while ago. This company is one that I have dealings with, so I immediately sit up and take notice. And the first thing I do is, well, has it actually been sent by them? So I just hover over the sender address over there, and you'll see in a moment that it actually comes from a genuine email address. So I'm taking it seriously. So I went to the website of this company myself, not by clicking on the link, by typing it into my browser. I entered in my username and password, and I saw that my account wasn't suspended. Everything was fine. So this was a spoofed email landing in my inbox.
In that example, a scammer was spoofing the email address of a company. But David has also identified something more sinister: when fraudsters spoof your own exact email address to try and convince you that your account has been hacked, something that's happened to him.
And I've got here an email that purported to be from myself. That's my face. That's my from up there. Now, what's happening here is that A scammer is saying that my account is now infected. They're trying to make out that my email address has been taken over. And in order for them to kind of profit from this, they're trying to get me to believe that they have some personal information about me, and if I send them some cryptocurrency, then they won't release that. Now, how do I know that my account hasn't actually been compromised? Well, I ran a few security checks. I checked to see recent logins. Nothing sort of matched. And also, if you copy and paste some of the text from this email into a search engine, you will see that this text has been used in countless scams in the past. So again, I knew it wasn't genuine.
Yeah, well, scary stuff. Matt, your company Proofpoint deals with cybersecurity. How big an issue is it?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we see millions, if not billions, some days of imposter and spoofed emails out there. Proofpoint's own research shows this is a threat that's arriving in people's inboxes on a regular basis. And in many cases, cyber criminals can actually send emails pretending as if they're somebody else. They can just change that address and say, hey, I want to be you today. I'm going to send an email that it looks like it's come from you. Email as a technology, it was devised about 40 years ago. And back then, I don't think people were really thinking about the way that cyber criminals would try and exploit us today using that technology.
I can imagine that quite a lot of our viewers are sitting there going, I don't know whether I dare send an email or receive one ever again. Briefly, from both of you, what advice would you give?
The main advice really is to actually look at the emails and say, was I expecting this? Is it normal? And if it's not normal, well, perhaps I can just stop for a minute and think, if it's asking me to take action, like click on a link, should I just take a step back, stop and think? And if it's asking me to do anything at all with money, then I should definitely be verifying this. At this point, I should be calling the organisation using information outside of the email, so not using the phone number within the email to contact them.
David, what about you?
Well, I would echo everything that Matt says, and I would apply to really to any type of messaging, email as well as text message, and any other way people get in touch with us. It's this zero trust mantra. Never trust, always verify. And if you do receive a spoofed or any kind of phishing email, report it. And there's an easy email address, report@phishing.gov.uk. Forward that email address there, and the authorities are actually very good at taking down bad domains in this space.
Very good advice. Thank you both very much.
Goodness me, I feel like I've learnt so many useful things today. If you want to remind yourself of any of the advice that we have shared, such as how to find a trustworthy tradesperson or how to spot a spoof email, you can watch again on BBC iPlayer.
But let's quickly round up the show with some questions for Aaron and David, who are here with us. Aaron, this one is for you. Mike Wells got in touch saying he had a debt shown on his credit score for a company he'd never had an account with. He's tried to contact the company but had no response. Where can he go next?
He needs to go to credit reference agencies and tell them I've got a disputed transaction on my credit score. They'll raise it with the creditors and they'll make that correction. If it doesn't get any further, he can file something called a notice of correction and let any creditors know this is a problem and it's not of his creation.
Good advice.
And I'm afraid that is where we've got to leave it for today. Thank you all very much indeed for being with us on the programme. And until next time, from the entire team, bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Fascinating history brought to life under the watchful